Welcome back to the Mama Bear Diaries. My name is Deborah Giesling. I'm a mother and advocate for my son who has a serious mental illness. We are on primer number 7 today, and I'm going to briefly touch on what is the opposition? Why is it so hard? Besides political apathy and a lack of people caring, not enough money, what are some other problems or barriers that this group of individuals and family members is coming up against? I'm going to touch on that today. I don't have a name for that yet. I'll figure it out. But yes, until I get all those donations coming in, we're going to still be going off my phone on the intro music and the exit music. So thanks for bearing with me. Also, my sister told me that my glasses are reflecting, so I'm taking those off right now. So welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that it's kind of on the forefront of my mind right now. I had spoken about SAMHSA before and how that is the organization, the agency that was created to kind of oversee mental health and substance use services for the United States, and how under the Trump administration that has been dissolved and it's going to be transferred under AHA. And so I'm hopeful if they listen to the right people that this will reorient and prioritize those with the most significant needs who have been overlooked. And that is the group that we advocate for here. And so why I'm here, why this subject came pushed up to the top a little bit, is because I follow the former head of SAMHSA on LinkedIn. And the past few days, he's been posting a report that came out by the government, by HHS, that is a self-reporting report on how effective were the grants that were put in place for states and counties to start assisted outpatient treatment programs for the severely mentally ill who have anosognosia, who are incapacitated by their illness, and they need involuntary help, assistance. And so basically the report came out and said, it's inconclusive. And so I'll post a screenshot, you can read it in the article that goes along with this podcast, of Mr. DeVecchio saying, well, is it time to pull the plug? I know the back history of how hard it was to pass that under the Helping Families and Mental Health Crisis Act. It took a Herculean effort to get that passed and to get the government to start putting in place treatment on-ramps for people that have severe mental illness. And for them to just come out and say, yeah, we're not really sure if this helps. We don't really have the evidence. And so for the former head of SAMHSA to be using his platform to say, oh, we should just pull the plug on this. What? I find it appalling. And I find it even more appalling the number of people that support that idea. And so I want to talk about where does that come from? There is a group of people, I'm just going to broadly term it anti-psychiatry, largely influenced by the late psychiatrist Thomas Sass, if I'm saying his name right, and also kind of brought up again Robert Whitaker's book, The Anatomy of an Epidemic, which it got some things right about the overdiagnosis and over-medicalization of mental health issues, but it totally missed the mark on the severely mentally ill. And this group of people just sees anything that is involuntary as wrong, and it needs to be stopped. And there's groups it's largely in the disability rights community. This is really heavy. You won't see it in the forefront, but from behind the scenes, they are their agenda is to do away with involuntary treatment. Their agenda, if we go back even further, is to do away with guardianship. There was a treaty. It was kind of pushed through. It was called the UN CRPD. I'm probably getting the letters in the wrong order, but it was the United Nations. Um, it was some kind of a for the rights of disability for people with disabilities, and it had this really nice sounding name because we want people with disabilities to have rights, and but what it did was there was this little piece in that actually was severing guardianship. They like to end guardianship. If the United States had adopted that treaty, it would usurp our Constitution. So that's the kind of thing that happens at the global level. And thankfully, there were people that were working on parental rights at the time that were able to stop that effort, and it wasn't passed through Congress. And thankfully, my goodness. But that's that ideology, that agenda has not gone away. It's still there. And DeVecchio feels very empowered for some reason to just kind of, dig his heels in and keep bringing this up. And I find it appalling. What are these people saying? Are they saying that individuals like my son do not deserve a right to treatment? That my son, instead of being stable, instead of living a healthy life in the community with a job, he's had a part-time job, the same one for 6 years. Are they saying it would be better off for him to be in a homeless shelter or in jail or dead? Is that what they're saying? Have they found a cure for schizophrenia? For untreated schizoaffective disorder? Have they found the cure magically and we're just missing the mark here? These families are just drowning and they've got the magic mark for these individuals to get better? No. It's absurd, but the reality is that's what we're up against. And to bring it down home to our state level, a big effort is being made in all the states to push this thing called supported decision making. And I have a piece on it on our blog. It was written a couple years ago. So if you go to p82homes.org, look through our blog, and we've got some information about that. But I was part of watching that. I would sit in hearings down at the legislature where this was being pushed by disability rights groups as the answer to guardianship. Guardianship was looked at as oppressive to these individuals and to these organizations. And so supported decision making is an option that clinics can present to an individual who is disabled or incapacitated even by serious mental illness, and say, you don't need guardianship. You don't have to do that. You can just sign a contract with your mom or your dad that allows them to be kind of, you kind of can meet and talk about different things, but there's no legal bearing. It still doesn't give you the right to talk with providers. It doesn't even have the weight of an ROI. It's just basically like me when I was a homeschool mom sitting down with my kids and saying, hey, let's make a contract together. That's basically what our lawmakers actually put in place. And so I guarantee you this is going to be used again to weaponize against guardianship rights and against helping those who really cannot help themselves in the name of empowerment. I don't know. I don't understand why they can't see that these individuals need someone to advocate for them, and it's a good thing that they have an advocate. That it's a good thing that they have a guardian. I don't know any mother or father who's become a guardian who is celebrating that. No one wants to become a guardian. That's not the dream we had for our kids. But we must do that because there are so many barriers to them getting treatment and housing. If we just let them flow through this system without an advocate, without a meaningful advocate, and say, hey, you can make your own decisions. I mean, I would love for that to be the case. But in some cases, it's not, and it's dangerous. And what always happens to those individuals is they get on this merry-go-round of treat in the hospital, street, repeat. And if they get get charged with petty crimes or petty things that they've done, they can't make a court hearing. What happens? They get a warrant out for their arrest. So they end up in jail, or really, honestly, they end up dead. They end up dead or victimized on the streets, especially the women. Just imagine what happens to the women. So how is that better than assisted outpatient treatment, which says you've got to participate in treatment in order to stay in the community? We're gonna hook you up to a clinic. We're gonna hook you up to a team that's gonna support you, but you've got to make all your appointments. You've got to take your medications. And guess what? What happens much of the time is people get better if they stay on their medications and they actually can have a life. I don't understand the disconnect here between these two sides. So I'm going to link a screenshot to Mr. DeVecchio's lovely post on LinkedIn and the post from Supported Decision Making, and also some links from mentalillnesspolicy.org. That is the late DJ Jaffe's website, which has phenomenal articles that and it's an encyclopedia of resources, but he's got a few articles on anti-psychiatry and where that kind of all fomented and informed, and also critiques of Robert Whitaker's book, Anatomy of an Epidemic. And I just wanted to step in here and mention this and just talk about this. I'll put a link if I can find also on that treaty that I talked about. There's not a lot of things have been swept from the internet about that issue, but it's real important to understand this, to understand what the opposition is doing and saying. And I can't, to me, morally, ethically, I don't see any justification for it. But the only way I can combat it is to talk about it and help people to understand that's the battle out there. And the people who are getting hurt, the people who are losing here, are the most marginalized, the most ignored by our government and our society, and it's just not right. So please take a moment to think about that. And again, I like to dialogue with you over it, but I don't spend a lot of time. My whole life is not going to be given to fighting these things. I'm going to speak up when they come up because I want to do something a lot more positive. That's what my husband and I want to do. And the next episode, I'm going to talk about the difference between peers, which there are a lot of peers in this disability rights community, but there are also peers that understand and they understand the value of the tool of assisted outpatient treatment, and they've gotten better, and they want to help. And there's a place for peers and peer workers within the system, but there's also some pitfalls to it, and I want to talk about a different way, a more positive way that is something we're going to implement into what we're going to do. So I know you're just dying to hear the last part of my son's music because I know I am. Okay, here we go. And Brown Eyes, this is for you. I love you. And I'm so proud of you.